This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from Rise of a Dark Throne and Iron Flame, with mentions of ACOFAE, Euphoria, and Our Flag Means Death. For full list, please see show notes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Rise of a Dark Throne by Leah Cushman.
And this is book 1 of 2, so it's a confirmed duology that we read both through Audible, but it's also available on KU.
And we have a story about that, and we will get to it. But before we get started, Jess, I want to tell you a story. This story takes place during the holidays in the United States, so it just happened recently. Editor Sam and I were making our road trip from Colorado to Phoenix, and we were listening to a podcast that both of us very much enjoy called The Flophouse. This is a podcast about bad movies.
We listened to them when we did the Colorado thing. I think I know them.
Yeah, I like them a lot. Elliot, Kaylin, I just like them a lot. It's a really great podcast. So the podcast was reviewing The Flash, which I thought was very funny because I have very mixed feelings about The Flash, obviously, and having them go through the movie was very entertaining. Now, there was a part where Elliot, one of the hosts, was like, you know what? I don't like this part because they used a cheap gag about, different actors in different movies. They could have gone, and done something smart, like, the presidents are different. And then all of the other hosts were like, Elliot, what the absolute shit? Like, that's a little highbrow snobby thing to say. Like, what are you on about? So then as Jess, was reading this book, there was just something that really bothered me. And it also goes back to travel. But my question to you is, I had a problem with this book because of the conversation indicators. The he said, she said, he responded, she responded, that this book is absolutely filled with. My question to you, Jess, is, am I an absolute fucking snob for just being so upset about the way that this book is written?
No. And I'm going to fight you just like I fought you on our anniversary episode, because I didn't feel that way when you're like, am I a snob? Because I just didn't love Fourth Wing the way others loved Fourth Wing. And I feel like this is the same thing. Like, I don't think it's snobby. I think it's something that you picked out, because to follow up with what you're saying, I had a lot of questions about this book, and it made me think, well, is it me? Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Because I was excited because I was like, okay, I wasn't sure if it was NA or YA, but it read very young. It read very YA. It read very adventure, even though the characters are in their 20s. And then all of a sudden there's spice. And I was just like, the way that part was written took me out of the book, took me out of the plot. And again, to what maybe I don't think you're a snob, but maybe this is a me thing, because I don't think that every book needs to have spice. But that being said, I know we've had conversations with each other and with guests who feel like they have noticed a change in their writing style because of the demand from the audience.
If you're watching a video clip of this, I have a dog, and the dog is directly in front of the microphone, and he is snooting for pets. So disclaimer, if I sound different, it's because I've had a total furnace failure, and I'm recording upstairs in the living room, and the dog is very close to the microphone, and the video is amusing. So I'm just saying that as my disclaimer.
And the dog's love language is absolutely physical touch.
Physical touch.
It needs to be with you at all times.
At all times. He's a Velcro dog. Jumping back to what you're saying, Jess, the writing style when it comes to the spice scenes versus the non-spice scenes are something that I think we should address, because the story does feel like the spice scenes were inserted because they're written like way more graphically than any of the rest of the story is at all, really. And it's just like, Jess, your example when we were discussing this earlier was like, juices are running. And it's like, it just, the rest of the story didn't set it up to be juicy. And it did take me out of it a little bit. I found myself making a stank face when I was walking around because I did this through audio.
And that's not to say that we don't like obviously look back on our episodes. We love a good time. We get giddy with, like, depending on how it's written, we love a good spice scene. I think it impresses a lot of people, not just, I think, like, people outside of the book community, that a lot of us could also just like read spicy scenes with a straight poker face. But even the level of description, it went from things were being alluded to, like, oh, there's something happening, or like, I don't know, the vagueness, to all of a sudden it's like, my magic cock, your pussy is juicy. And it was just like, oh, that's a jump from chapter 10 to chapter 20, whatever. Like, I don't know. Again, it took me out of the book because let's take the spice out. There's a story there. There's a plot. Does it follow the pattern, Laura?
Does it follow the pattern? I mean, yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Yes. Okay. Yes, it does follow the pattern. Very much so. It's just that I have a lot of questions that are unanswered. So in my head, it makes the pattern feel a little bit looser than it actually is. But on paper, like, yeah, it absolutely follows the pattern, in my opinion. Jess, do you agree?
It follows the pattern that it's in. We're getting more insight from chapter 1 than the prologue. The prologue feels very, here's some historical background on Sol's father, who left one area to go find the country that they're living in now, in Mosa.
Yeah, and so the prologue and the epilogue match up perfectly. They are both a lost, like, child trying to figure out next steps in, like, a strange place with strange people, with an unknown kind of, like, threat looming, right? So, like, the prologue and epilogue do match up. Okay, so Jess, before we, like, get more into, like, what actually is going on in this book, can you give me some help on who these people are? Because let me confess something else. These are my confessions. It took me my second reread to really identify all of the different personalities of this chosen family.
Yeah, so I feel like I'll give the key people that we know and kind of some sub-characters that correlate with each of them. And then we'll casually mention them in and out for the rest of the story. We have Leah Soledad Port. She is also known as Sol. She is the princess of Mosa. She's getting married. She becomes the queen of Mosa. She is a second-born daughter. First chapter, she is engaged and having her wedding to Nasir. And she also has Nisa, who is her personal guard. The guard of essentially Mosa's warriors, which are all female. Think of like Dora Milaje. And she's also her sister-in-law, because Nisa is Nasir's sister. You also have loosely right now, you have 2 other siblings, 2 sisters that Sol has, and her mother and father. You also have, and this is overseeing the kingdom of Mosa. You also have the kingdom of Sundom, which Prince Rivian, he is a second-born son, so his brother Ril, you have the heir and the spare. You have Zari, who is Rivian's best friend. He's the commander of the Sun Guard and his personal bodyguard. Kia, who is also second-born and is Rivian's ex-girlfriend. You have Luce, who, like, all his little found family are all second-born. So that's kind of how they gravitated towards each other, like, understanding, like, the nuances of being second-born to, like, their kingdoms. Luce is, quote, the most trusted of Rivian's guards. He's also the fuckboy of the kingdom. And even he might be the most trusted of Rivian's guards, but is the least trustworthy around women. Then you also have Selah, who is betrothed to Rivian, and they're just trying to, like, get their kingdoms together for, like, the good of all the land. Those are, like, our key players.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it, because I was struggling. I was struggling the first time through. Okay. All right, prologue. Let's get into this. We have Prince Axel. Prince Axel and his father are fleeing Sundom, and his father says, "Yo, go to an island in Mosa and establish a kingdom." I love the vagueness, right? Great. Yeah. Okay, directions, totally easy, fine.
We gotta flee this bad thing, but I'm gonna stay here because I'm human, but y'all go off.
Yeah, and this is so King Alacor of Sundom, the kingdom that we are starting off in, tried to assassinate Axel's parents, not told who they are. What we can establish here is that Axel and his people are different from the people of Sundom. They look different, like they're not elves, it's a whole thing.
And their ancestors had magic, but they don't. And Axel's like, I don't get it. We don't have magic anymore. Why are we being sought after, kind of thing?
Yeah. And the King Alacor is persecuting them because there's, like, remnants of magic in their blood. But then there's, like, this big chant, like, Axel, establish our kingdom here now, here before, here now, and hereafter. And then there's, like, all of this lightning, right? Like, the lightning's a big deal. And, like, Axel is, like, crying out, rah, and there's lightning. And then it's like, ba, 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 chapter 1, and there's a wedding. And Axel, now a grown man, is forgetful, anxious, and unsettled, and has been for 3 months.
Yeah, and he acknowledges it. He's like, something's off. I don't feel so good. I have a gut feeling we should push this off. And his wife is like, you're just in your own head. And he's thinking, maybe I am. Like, maybe I'm just, like, dealing with my childhood trauma. Like, that was really traumatic. I still think about this regularly. And she goes, what would you do if they tried to tell you we couldn't have ours? Because they are confirmed mates. That's what they're referring to it as in the book. If somebody tried to stop us from our wedding day and our wedding night and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, you're right. Like, maybe I'm just in my own head. One thing they always tell, like, us as women is if you have a gut instinct, trust your gut instinct. Even if you're someone like me who's like, I have anxiety, but it usually is a reason. So everything's interconnected with that gut instinct with your anxiety. So, but he did not follow his gut instinct, King Axel.
No, he didn't. Even though there's, like, lightning that hits the sea and it's very scary and it's, like, pouring down rain.
And it's full circle from how we close the prologue of him as a kid saying, like, bye, father. And then the lightning hit the sea. Also there.
Yep. So it's like, okay. But, they're not delaying. So who's getting married? Sol is getting married. She's the second-born daughter. So it's like a class system, don't you think? Like, the whole second-born situation.
I feel like Mosa, the kingdom that they're in, because she makes it a point to say to Rivian later in the book, she's like, I don't know about y'all, but our kingdom didn't see second-borns as, like, this secondary person. We are just as impactful, and that's why she got married, because she was married before the firstborn. It had nothing to do with a marriage of convenience or what was going to be. That was just because they were mates and they weren't holding off just because the first one hadn't found hers.
I have such a problem with that, and it annoys me so much because it's like, no, we got away and we don't treat each other like secondborns, but they're always like referring to her. It's like, but I'm secondborn. I'm secondborn. I'm secondborn. It's like, oh, are you? Okay. But your whole like thing is that you're not, and that it's like not something that you do on Mosa, but like it's all you're talking about.
So question, you know how like even if we follow the Moses, maybe this is the stuff that has to get fleshed out that maybe hasn't been fleshed out because we haven't read, like it's not fleshed out in this book, but it might be in the second book, is the fact that, okay, you are secondborn, you get married, but she becomes queen by default because of what happens. It's not like, oh, now that you're secondborn, you're the first to marry, you're automatically queen. Never mind. I talked myself through that one.
And here's the other thing too. She's like, I say Soul is always like, you know, we don't deal with secondborns. It's not important to us. Like, it's not important to my family. And
so then why do you keep?
Well, no. And then Rivian later is like, me and my brother are building a place only for secondborns. And Soul is like, yeah.
She wants to be part of the secondborn club.
It's like, wait, what? Oh, it was very confusing. Okay. I'm just going to say that the entire relationship between Rivian and Soul was very confusing to me, and I don't buy it. So, like, aspects of her reacting to him just seem wildly out of character to me. And I was just like, okay, all right, so that's what we're doing. Fine, okay.
But I do like, okay, like, in reference to that, he's like, oh, but I'm madly, and, you know, when they have the exaggerated confession trope, you know, or exasperated confession trope. I'm in love with you, rah, rah, rah. I like that she was like, you also said something to me last week. What's different? What's the difference between this week and last week? We've only seen each other.
As she's completely in love with him. Like, I just don't buy it. Because even as she's like, I don't believe you, her inner monologue is like, I'm soaking for him. Tell me I'm wrong. That's what it's like.
I hope he doesn't know my wetness.
I can smell your arousal.
I forgot you're half Wolven. You do that sort of thing. You consent me.
It was just, all right, we'll get there. Okay. Back to what you were saying, Jess, that started off this whole little tangent we went on. I'm sorry. So in Mosa, second daughters, it doesn't matter. But the second daughter is getting married first, and anytime anyone asks him, he says that Axel, the king, says that I let my second-born daughter, even though we don't have it here, I let my second-born daughter marry first because we never know when the Holy Mother is going to send a mate. So when you have it, it just, you like go for it as soon as it happens, like fated mates, whatever. Still a little bit unsure about how the fated mates works, if it's actually like magic, even though like magic doesn't exist yet. I don't know. It's very. But
then they like the second they started saying like fae and elves, I'm like, okay. To me, my head automatically understands mates, but then they talk about mates and fated mates. And then there's a sentence where they go, oh, the mates are mating or something about the wedding night and consummating the marriage. And I was just like, so again, maybe I just don't know if it's fleshed out. We also know that I get inside my own head a lot where I'm like, is there a difference? I thought that there was a difference between fated mates and just mates. There's a lot of little nuances that maybe I'm still not familiar with fantasy almost 4 years later.
I disagree with you, Jess. I think that this book is not fleshed out the way that it could possibly be, so that these things are just a little bit confusing. And that if you were reading it for vibes as a YA reader, this would not be a problem. But because this is there are spicy scenes inserted here. It's wildly NA, and it's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Well, thank you for making me feel better about that, because, you know, sometimes I get too in my head and I'm like, I'm definitely overthinking, or you're like, you overthought the whole thing where you're back to square one.
You know, yeah, there's a few things that I was very unclear about, but we'll get there. Let's see. So, okay, fated mates, like we were talking about, Nasir, our fated mate. Okay. Nasir has been in love with Sol since he was 5 years old, and Nasir is Nisa's brother. Nisa is Sol's best friend. Nisa loves fashion. She's a big flirt. She loves boys. She's also Sol's like advisor later on. When Nasir's whole thing of like, you should smile more, when I read that the first time, I said, he's the villain. He's the villain. What? What are you saying? Sol, you find that shit endearing? Are you out of your goddamn mind? You should smile more, Sol. The world needs to see your smile. Shut the fuck up. Don't tell me what to do. But here's the thing. Again, I would ask if I'm a snob about that, but he turns out to be the villain. So I was right, and it doesn't matter. But that man, you should smile more. I was like, this is not a love interest, and you can't sell me on this love interest.
So my question is, do you think he was the villain the whole time, or do you think it's the villain, like it's his Nasir's body, and the soul of the villain is using Nasir's body?
Great question, because whatever that is inside of Nasir's body or whatever is actually Nasir, because he's got all of Nasir's memories and stuff. And even when he jumps bodies into Rivian, he still has all of Nasir's like memories. Okay. And the thing is, when that entity is in Rivian, I mean, spoilers for the end of the book, but here we are. When that entity is in Rivian, he says like, oh, you know, this was his plan all along. He just wanted to be king of Mosa. Like, you think he was like, he had, he had specks of black in his soul the whole time. So like, who knew? Maybe he was plotting to be king this whole time and you never knew, you know, like because he says also like, you were the easy one because your other sisters were like not as naive as you, and they wouldn't like, you know, fall for me, but I figured you were an easy mark. Like, I mean, all of that sounds perfectly legit if you were plotting.
Yeah, and her, I mean, especially if we're talking about like childhood friends, he saw me for, you know, because she was also, again, these are like throwbacks to like, oh, didn't you must have people falling all over you. And she's like, I wear glasses and I read books. So nobody falls all over me. The people, you know, they want people like extroverted girls who know how to swim and climb and hike and socialize. And I just kind of, and Nasir, what did she say? Nasir accepted me for who I was. I didn't have to change it. And he was the first person to give her attention, outside of her sisters, outside of anybody else. So she was like, it was just really easy. He made it really easy for me. And, you know, he adapted to what would lure, I guess, for lack of a better word, Sol.
I have a little criticism, and I don't want to be a brat about it, but this book does a lot of fucking telling and not showing. This book tells me everything. It tells me that this world has 2 pink moons. It tells me that the Misa warriors are elite maidens of the Shining Sea that are female troops, you know, for 6,600 years. They're bodyguards, you know, it's all of this stuff. The exposition of, you know, Luna with her hawk lantern and Lola with her fish lantern and Sol with her book lantern. All of this stuff, the descriptions of the throne, right? The sail, the anchor, the helm, the 3 crowns, the mermaids, like all of this stuff was just like listed off to, like, it could have been bullet points, right? Like a scene description on a script, like this is what it looks like, boom, 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 boom. And then he said, and then there's the dialogue. That is what this reads to me. This reads as a screenplay in a lot of parts. Mm-hmm. So it was difficult to go from these descriptions and telling me about this wedding and setting the scene and building this world to straight fucking on the wedding night.
Yeah, there wasn't any buildup. And that was just chapter 2. Because I just remember they have the vows. Her dad's giving the vows. Then they're like, oh, you and the people, bid them to go consummate their marriage, which is always, I can't imagine that awkwardness. I'm sure many people have gone through it. I have not had a wedding, so I don't know what that's like, but I do know when I was 16, I told myself I'm never having sex on my wedding night because I don't want people to know what I'm doing when I'm doing it.
Especially because it's like her dad making these jokes. It's like,
yes. And then they were like, it's just all of it awkward. And then she's like, I'm going to be really seductive. And she goes, oh, he beat me to it. I showed him my shoulder. And then they're like, I've been wanting this. And then but here's a good example. Yes, they go straight to fucking, but it's not completely spicy. It's just alluding that it's like, okay, it's their wedding night. Okay, the sheets are tangled. Oh my gosh, the white blanket is on the floor because of last night's activities. It's very vague. It's still very YA in this moment to me. And then, chapter 2 rolls around, or we're into chapter 1, and she's like, why is it so cold? Why is the city so quiet? I see Nasir's hand, but it's cold. And this is where all the things start clicking into place, that this darkness that her father was like on edge for the night before, has taken over and feels like everybody's dead or unconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are guards outside of the room that her and Nasir are in, like Aurora's, like Lola, her sister, like her best friend is out there, and a bunch of guards. And so Sol, like you said, wakes up. She's freezing cold. She's like, oh, I have to compromise and get more blankets. Anything for Nasir. He likes to sleep with the window open. Ugh, enough. So she sees him. He's got gray skin and black fingers, and she starts freaking out. Right? She throws open the doors. Everybody's dead, just as you say. And Sol realizes that she has magic. And she has, honestly, the opposite reaction than I would. She's like, oh my God, I have to help my people because I was crowned princess last night. I need to help my people. My first thought was, I need to go help my family and my friends. Fuck all these people. I'll get them later.
Right. Because what is the rush of us, like also if you think of
Wake
it, like,
up the king, let's get the government going. Who gives a shit about the merchants?
Okay. Thank you. Because it's almost like when you have, you have the entire cabinet and then you have everything under Congress, and being specific about the U.S. And even if you have all the cabinet members, there's always one cabinet member where they're always rotating out to keep away from everybody else. God forbid that there is some sort of crazy attack. And that's where I would be like, okay. And then you have to like rebuild your cabinet, and you have to rebuild your everybody that you're working with. So that's where my mind was. I'm glad you said that, because there's also another thing in here that I love that she said. And then she was like, I feel so bad that I said it. It was when her and Rivian were like having a back and forth banter. And she's like, you forget yourself. I hold the magic. I can easily take it away. You need me more than I need you. I don't have to heal your father. And I was like, yes, I would hold that over somebody's head. Again, these people are better than us. I don't know.
Well, yeah, for real. Because by the time Sol makes it to her family, she cannot revive them for whatever reason. It's unclear. Like the Holy Mother chooses. It's very vague.
Yeah, all because the little kid said was like, Princess Sol, what about my dad? Fuck your dad.
What about mine? What about mine? Get the fuck out of my way.
Goodbye.
Mine's the king. Get out of my way. Yes. I swear to God. You know what? It couldn't be me. It couldn't be me. But speaking of family, Luna and Lola, Sol's two sisters, are not in the palace. She can't find them. Nobody can find them. They are gone, not dead. So here we go. No head, not dead.
The guards say, and it gets cut off because, again, we read this both ways, and we'll get into it. We couldn't find their butt, and then it cuts off, and they go, we couldn't find them. They're probably doing other things right now, which they are. Spoiler alert. Flash forward to the end.
Yeah, flash forward to the end.
I put no head not dead in my notes too.
Yeah. It is here where Soul like collapses and she like passes out for over a year. And then we have a 1.5 years later, Soul wakes up and she is the lone queen of Mosa with magic. It's just a very wild jump. Like, who ran the kingdom while she was out? What is going on? What's the status? Where were you? Like, I have questions. And they are not addressed.
Because they're not even addressed in like later throughout the book. They're like, oh, well, while you were, you know, passed out, while you were healing, while you were this thing happened. Or like Nisa and the Dora Milaje, the Misa warriors, they were running the show. You know, like none of that is really, again, fleshed out.
No, not at all. And the plot progresses wildly fast, in my opinion. So, like, Soul passes out. She wakes up a year later. I guess she's, like, going off for 6 months, like, building up things. And all of a sudden, the second Prince of Sundom is here, and we are off on an adventure. It's like, what?
Okay, so I put that, and this is only chapter 4. I was like, they're on the Radiant ship to go to Sundom. I go, when was that agreed upon? Was that just the casual mention of like, well, Mosa has to, you know, wants to work on our trade with other areas, but it's also because of that dagger that she knows about?
Yeah, okay. So this is where like the reread was really helpful. So here, when it's like the second Prince of Sundom is here, like King Aiden is sick, like I need to go help the people, and like Rivian is here to fetch me, and he's going to take me over to Sundom, whatever, because the darkness plague has killed like 1/4 of the population of their world. And Soul now has magic to heal the first person for the first time in 4 centuries. So it is here where, you know, Soul and Nisa are like, you know, let's do the chant on the beach. Like, we don't know when we'll be back. Like, we're not alone. Soul already knows that she's going after the dagger to revive Nasir.
Oh, she's totally, it's not like where we were when she first woke up. She's like, let's necromancy this shit. That's where her mind is right now.
Yeah. But she doesn't tell anybody. And
they never do.
And the fact that she is like in on it and kind of using the situation to her own benefit was like not clear to me until like much later. The first time I read this, I was like, oh, wait, you know this the whole time? What? Okay.
You knew this the whole time. And what I love about it, so we know she knows about it the whole time. I know I'm jumping forward here because Nisa overhears the Sundom, like Rivian and crew, talk about like, look, we just need her for this, that, the other thing. And then she's like, and she goes back to tell Soul, and Soul's like, it's all right. I know about this.
Well, that's a lot. And she lies to her there, though.
And then she lies to, like, we know her dialogue as we know Soul's dialogue because her inner dialogue because we're the reader. And she's like, I'm not going to tell her that I'm going to raise her brother from the dead, because if this is the judgment she's passing on Rivian, she's probably going to pass the same judgment on me. And so I'm going to but like, it got to that. It took that part to understand. Which, again, I love Nisa. Nisa's, like, the realest of everybody.
Yeah. She would have been, like, totally up. Again.
Especially because it's her brother. She'd be like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. I maybe that's the double standard. But she would be like, oh, well, if we already knew, then we have the upper hand.
Yeah, these were my thoughts, too. But, you know, it's fine. It's fine. We should mention that Soul is dreaming of her sisters. She has like a consistent dream of her sisters over and over again, so she doesn't like sleep really well. Talking about the Misa warriors, the darkness plague killed 984 of them. There are only 16 left, and 5 go on this journey to Sundom with Nisa and Soul. Yes. And one of my favorite little details is the Misa warrior carry blades of amethyst. Love that.
Oh, I love that. I put that too. It reminded me of the amethyst scepter you sent me the other day.
Yep. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Soul also is like wearing her crown, right? It's her dad's crown and her mom's like mirror. So, very cool. Very cool. Very cool.
Another small thing that I really liked was this kind of overlaps into how how Soul and Nisa and just like the people of Mosa in general they don't call them sunsets. They refer to them as moon rises. Like there's nothing setting. There's just another new beginning. And I really liked that like small little detail because it shifted. I was like, oh, that's like a really beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah. Rivian is very beautiful, and everyone will take every opportunity to tell us over and over and over again. Rivian is a 6-foot, half elf, half wolven with white skin, hair, and piercing blue eyes.
And KU version, hold on, let me see if I can pull it up, has fan art. Hold on. I don't know if you could see it.
Yeah, huh. He's hot. They're hot.
He is hot.
Rivian. Who's Rivian? Rivian is the second son. He's a prince. We get like little like I don't know plops.
He's a second-born prince.
Yeah, he's a second-born prince. He had to spend 7 years in the sanctum. We'll talk about the sanctum, and that's where he met his chosen family. Like we said, Kia,
which
Luce,
is another one
Zari.
of those show not tell things about the found family. I know that's a gripe we both have.
Yeah, he says like they're my chosen family over and over and over again. Just like you said, Kia's a fairy. Like, there's a slur that's dropped out there later. She's got pink hair. Second command in the army. Luce is the betrayer. He, spoiler, betrayer. Zari's the best friend. Zari's from Mosa. Zari is Mosian, and they give him kind of shit for that a little bit.
But there's a line that says, because of his time at the Sanctum and just of like the relationship he has with the Mosan people, that he has chosen to go as like he's part of the Alacor. He's like Zari of Alacor. Like that's kind of how he's rebranded himself to be the lead point person for Rivian.
Yeah. And these people have no fucking etiquette at all. And they're always talking as loud as they possibly can about the most insulting thing they possibly can say so that they can get overheard by either Nisa or Soul from now until the end of the book. Because that's just how it goes. Because Nisa overhears Zari and Luce being like, she's the princess of what? Like, she's the princess of a ruined country? Like, she's just a child. She can't be trusted. Fuck these people.
She's the bride of a dead man. Like, they're very crass. They're very rude for no reason but to be mean.
Yeah, for no reason. When they know she's like coming on board, like they know she's coming. Like, it's just,
yes.
It's really weird. It's very strange.
Well, also that they're acting like, this is the thing, and I know I said it earlier, they're acting like she needs them more than they need her. But I mean, again, this is earlier in the book, and the second read, you're just rolling your eyes the whole time, because this whole time they're like, you're coming to save our king. We need you. Meanwhile, flash forward to later in the book, King's been dead. King's been dead for 9 fucking months. So really, it's just like a whole gotcha betrayal, like you said, situation. But you're just like, it was all a ruse.
Yeah. And I guess this like situation exists so that we can see Soul kind of like put these people in her place with her glowing eyes, right? So she can have this kind of interaction with Rivian. They have this whole banter about like, well, protection and attacking is just the same thing from a different perspective. Rah! Like Soul's eyes like glow purple. She's like, I'm doing a favor for you. Like, you need to use my given titles. Like, use like my like queen. Because, and I find this so fucking insulting, they call her princess, like the whole time. And it's like, why are you doing that?
Even after the correct, like it's absolutely condescending. Like, oh, the princess, the princess of a dead king, like all this stuff, this, that, the other thing. It's so rude. It is condescending. She keeps repeating herself to say, no, I'm a queen. I'm a queen. And it's not even in it's okay, princess. No, they do it actively disrespect for, I don't understand. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't
especially
understand
as I guess it's the whole they were bullied at the sanctum, so now they're the bullies because that's their trauma and they want to bully everybody, so they feel like they're in this position of power. But Soul has class. That's because she's like, what else does she say? Don't mistake my kindness for comfort, for you may not be happy for what you find.
Yeah, it's so the whole, like, Rivian and Soul have this whole banter for this 30-day journey on this fucking boat about privilege, more or less. And, you know, it's like they're teasing a little bit and they're talking about privilege. And that's kind of just like the whole plot until they get off the boat. And also Zari and Nisa are like flirting a little bit. It's like a whole thing.
But like even Nisa's inner dialogue, she's like, I know I should not be like, look at how he's treating me. Look how he's treating my best friend. I should not be entertaining this idea. But he's cute. I don't mind the attention. Like, this is so anti-feminist of me.
And here we have the first of many scenes where Nisa overhears them talking shit again. It's like immediate because Soul can't sleep. Nisa has a dream about her sisters, and Nisa goes to make tea. You know, there's lightning happening, whatever. And she overhears them talking about like here's my bullet point list. The Dark Wilds, Rivian being engaged. They're talking about the prophecy. They're talking about and they're just
how they want to fuck you, how they want to fuck.
Yeah. And Nisa can't keep her cool and burns the shit out of herself making tea and is like, ah, and they all like run in.
No, because I think it was the tea had the whistle and she's like, crap, they're going to know I'm here. So she tried to quiet the teapot and she grabbed it with her hand. Like she was like, crap, I was made.
Everybody is in there. They're all drinking. That's the other thing. She's like, all this privilege. You're just drinking and fucking. It's all this wasted. But she says to Rivian, Nisa says to Rivian, like, we will never be disrespected. Like, Soul's pain is her strength. There's this whole subplot that I just hate. Her pain is her strength. Like, you have no idea how strong she is. And Rivian's like, all right, bet, let me walk you back to your room. And then Soul like opens the door in her negligee. What is going on? Like she opens the door and Rivian's like staring at her and he like takes her hand and like kisses her. And their whole thing is like only their mates kiss their hand. And like
after Luce already tried kissing her hand and Nisa straight out swatted it away. She's like, do not touch my queen.
Yeah. And it's like, okay. And then she lets him do it. And she's like very flustered. And this is where Nisa this is what we were talking about earlier. Nisa tells Soul about the dagger. And that's why Soul is like, I'm going to lie about this and be like, I already know, but there's a spell. There's a spell to like neutralize it, which is a lie. It's fine. It's, whatever. There is an indication that Luce is the traitor here because Soul, when Nisa is overhearing all of their like talking about this, Luce's voice is and Nisa says like Luce's voice is too clear to be as drunk as he should be.
Right. Indicating that he's just faking being drunk. He's not really drunk.
Yeah. So you're like, all right. And that's very early on. So like, it's all here.
I feel like you pick up on that the first time and then it's solidified obviously at the end. And then when you read it a second time, it's there.
Yeah. And then we have the slur again. Zari, Kia, and Luce are drinking. Nisa shows up again and says like, fuck you, fairy dust, Kia. And this is where we have the like, fairies are real. They just came out like 20 years ago. It's a whole thing. People don't trust them. It's just a lot of like world building. And then it's not flushed out here. So maybe in book 2, we get a little more of like what the fuck is going on with the fairies because that's not going on here. But,
well, and even like the epilogue of this, I feel like it obviously sets up for book 2 to pick us up where with fairy involvement, or maybe it's elves. I don't know. That has it's a little unclear. It's a little unclear. We have questions. I don't have a question about Nisa smacking Zari. I like this. That dead prince was my brother. Queen of nothing. Fuck you. Nisa is again angry at herself for like confirming stereotypes of
Mosian woman being like angry sirens. I did like that kind of acknowledgement, but like, whatever, like, do what you want, do what you want. And this is also where Zari is like, let's go somewhere dark. Like, I want to show you something. And she's like, why? What the fuck is going on? I like that a lot. He's like, whoa, chill. I just want to show you the sea.
But
the sea is pretty.
But fair for her to be, you have all this
Absolutely.
shit that has been leading up to this. Of course she's going to be like, don't gaslight her into thinking that she has no right to be on her, like, have her head on a swivel about all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. So they apologize and flirt a little bit. They bond over dead brothers. It's a whole thing. What follows now is just a series of like coming together and going apart of meetings on the boat between Rivian and Sol and between Nisa and the Found family. And it's just like a back and forth.
And it's all very loose. It's like, oh, I'll see you in the library a couple times a week, or do you take lunch? Like or do you have breakfast? Like if you want to join me for breakfast, that's cool too. That's all it is, right?
Yeah, it's just like meetings, because like Nisa goes to the meal galley the next day and is like, yo, Sol wants to talk to you. Or Rivian's like, yo, come here then, bitch, more or less. And she does. And that's when Sol, starts sharing a little bit about like, Nasir and Nisa and like, my dreams and all of this stuff, smile more. And this is where they talk about the Signet Requiem, which is just like dropped here and not really picked up later. And we do have the Rivian's like internal monologue of like, I need to gain her trust. And it is not told to us why yet, but it's all fishy. But it is during these like meetings where they talk about and I did find this very interesting, the two different prophecies that we have going on in this plot. Like, there's a Mosian prophecy and then there's a Sundom prophecy, and they're very, very similar. And so I was like, well, yeah, of course, we're like ancestors and shit. Of course they'd be similar. But Rivian has like a section of his prophecy that he is not sharing because like, why share?
Well, and this is the one where isn't one of the things that's really similar is that they both, part of the prophecy indicates about 3 people returning, like magical people returning. And Rivian was like, well, who do you think they are? And she was like, 1, obviously.
Me. Duh.
2, we essentially find out it's Nasir.
Yeah, Nasir.
And then 3 is going to be him because of like the magical eyes.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, because he didn't come back. He didn't die. He didn't do anything. He didn't go anywhere.
Oh,
he wasn't
because it's
missing.
like leaving. Okay, because here
Darkness
I'm like,
didn't take him. I think it's Lola, because Lola just popped
Lola
into
is the
existence.
one who actually died. Okay, because I'm talking this out and I'm thinking, who is the third one? I was like, maybe it's him because he has magic with the glowing amber eyes. But Lola makes more sense because at the end, one of the last lines is like, you've been dead and gone, or we've been thinking you've been dead for 3 years.
Yeah, so I think I think it's her because and Rivian is just like magic
Just
is coming
magic.
back. Yeah, and he's just like coinkydink.
Oh, because like those 3 people are the prophecies, and then he already has the magic lineage, so that kind of like exacerbate, like just kind of like highlights that he's like, okay, it's go time with his magic.
These are my thoughts. We will see.
We haven't read the second book is out. We will say it's like out on KU now. We just haven't read it yet.
Yeah. So the prophecy, both of their prophecies at this point say like, a dark throne rises. There's a betrayer in Sundom. That's the part that he doesn't say, the betrayer in Sundom. The three will rise, an era of magic and sorrow, era of sorrow, age of magic, 3 beings. And this is where Sol and Rivian are like, yo, let's work together every single night in this massive library on this boat. Okay.
I had to wonder what that library would look like, and then I thought of Black Sails.
Yeah.
Or not Black Sails. What's the one with Taika?
Our flag means death.
Yes, Our Flag Means Death. And he's trying to save all the books.
He's trying to save all the books. It was just like the logistics, because there's no magic. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. This is the line. Luce is always visiting me, and Rivian is just like uncontrollable jealousy at this, but it's also like gross. Why is he like visiting you all the time?
Which I like that he was like, first off, I didn't, and I'm going to stop it right now. And she's like, no, like they like the attention, but he's already like, he shouldn't be doing that to begin with.
Yeah. But also here again, just talking about like things happening like strangely, I guess the pacing is Soul is like kind of in the library and she's like looking around at scrolls and she's like, I need to bring up the Dark Wilds. I need to like get this ball rolling with Rivian. And she like magically finds a scroll that talks about the Dark Wilds. And she's like, Rivian, look, we need to go to the Dark Wilds. And he immediately is like, I will take you. Yes, I will take you right now. No questions asked. No, it's not safe. He's like, yes, you and me right now.
I feel like he's not questioning anything because he's thinking that's what he needs. He needs this.
Yeah,
like
he's not fucking selling it. He's a bad actor.
Yeah, he's like, oh my gosh, this makes it so easy for me. Like that's the thing. Like they both think that they're like doing so. They're like, oh, I'm gonna ask him and see what he says. And he's like, yeah, right away because he needs it. And she's not questioning. Wait, why did he jump the gun so quickly? Because she needs it. Because both of them are just like, they're not asking the question. Like, why are they so on top of this? They have no idea why I'm asking it.
Like, why are you so eager? It's like, it's all suspicious. Like, aren't you suspicious? Jesus Christ, I'm suspicious.
It's like, when, in Euphoria, she's like, I know why I want to get back with you, but why are you saying that? Like, I love when she questions that.
It's like, something that I just don't, something that I don't really love. And Jess, I think we need to talk about this is that, Soul doesn't like show up for their daily like library session or whatever. So he goes to the library and she's there. It's just very confusing. And Soul's there in her jammies, I guess, like her rose gold jammies. We'll talk about rose gold later because it connects to a point we want to make at the end. But there's a lot of rose gold in this book. She's in her rose gold jammies and Rivian finds her and they start, talking about Sunham's privilege again. And she starts crying kind of out of nowhere. And she's like, and Rivian's like, have breakfast with me. And she's like, okay. And then they passionately make out. So they are passionately making out in chapter 10 in the audiobook. But, I think we have established a great consistency that Laura is pretty consistent when we do our reads for our episodes, that she reads the book at least twice when we're going into recording. That's not counting the times that she has read before that. For this book, I think you did 2 times, right? 2 full read-throughs? So for me, I did 1.5. I finished I was 50% before we started recording. And the first time I did audio straight through. Then the second time I was like, you know what? I'm going to speed it up and I'm going to co-read since it's on KU. And I'll just that way I could follow along a lot quicker. And in chapter 10 is when I first noticed this, is that there are parts in the audio that are all there. But this makeout scene and all of the stuff happening between making out and chapter 11 is not in the Kindle Unlimited version. So I had to stop. I thought I was just, my eyes couldn't catch up. It is not there. And it threw me for a loop. And it makes me wonder, because again, I didn't finish the whole second read through co-reading this, what other things we might not have if I only had read KU. Or maybe would this have contributed to some of the things that we were talking about earlier in the book, that maybe all the spicy scenes weren't in the KU book, and it would have changed how some of our perceptions and our opinions of this. What else is there? Exactly. What else is there? What have we missed? What is going on? There's a story here. It is all very interesting and something that I think we should maybe revisit, because this is very good. What we are not revisiting is this plot, because all right, okay, here we are. We're at breakfast the next day. We're talking about history. We are planning on how to go get the dagger. This is where Sol is like, oh, you were dating Kia. She still like is looking at you. Blah, blah, blah. Jealous. Oh, where, women in Mosa are openly talk about sex. Women in Sundom don't. Blah, blah, blah. Just like world building. We have info dumping about the sanctum. Like that's where he found his chosen family. His second born children go there when they're 7. It's very cruel. And this is where Sol drops the bomb. Like, oh, we met when we were kids. Like you saved me from the bullies. And this is where he's like, what? I don't remember this. She's like, yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. He's like, okay, let's meet for lunch later. And then it's like, okay, we're 6 nights out from the cave. We've got a plan for the cave. The pacing is just wildly all over the place.
It is all over the place. It makes me wonder, okay, there needs to probably be a median. Like, I feel like 200, like, again, on my KU, it says the book is, I'm sorry, it's not 270. It says 240 based on my, and I'm reading KU on like the iPad mini. So it says 240. And I feel like sometimes we have a lot of comments about like, does every fantasy book need to be 500 page? Not even 500, 800. Like not everything needs to be 800 pages. Maybe there's like a happy medium where you could have some fantasy books be like 300. But now I'm seeing this at 240 and I'm like, I'm feeling very, remember like when your water was really, really hot in Germany and I was like, this is like a dragon's lair. It's so hot. And then the pilot light went out in the building and all we got was cold water from the Alps. And I was like, I'll do anything. This is the other extreme. I'll take it. I take it back. I take it back. That's what I'm wondering if this is like, where I'm like, I take it back. Maybe we do need those extra pages.
Well, that's a good point because with this pacing, right? Because like, it's like, all right, we got 6 days to go to the cave. We got to plan it. It takes a half a day to get there, a half a day back. We have to explore. Luce wants to go, but we're all saying no. And he's very insistent and he's getting really pissed off that he can't go. And, Zari, Rivian, what the fuck is going on? Like, are you in love with her? Don't speak to her like that. Rah, rah.
And everyone's like, bro, you acted the same way when you were like 11, when you had a crush. So we're just wondering.
Yeah, it's like, okay. But then all of a sudden, it's time to go to the cave. So I guess 6 days have passed. And Nisa is like, the prince is in love with you. Whistle for your warriors. They'll protect you, whatever. And then we're into the wilds. We take the little dinghy to the beach. Luce still wants to come. And they're saying no. They're walking in the woods for an hour and a half of silence, right? We have Sol being like, I know your little plot. Nisa told me about your mission and the dagger. Rah, rah, rah. It's totally fine. Okay. And then she's like, oh yeah, you're also engaged. And then Rivian tells her like about the engagement. And then she runs away from him.
And drowns.
and drowns. She doesn't even do a good job about running away. She falls and drowns.
Don't even like.
What is this? She's like, you're engaged? Woo.
And
like Sonic,
like. But also like, look, I know you had a mate. I know you had your own kingdom. But that being said, if you ran your own kingdom, you understand that when he's saying, look, it's not really a marriage. Like we're betrothed. Yeah. And which I understand that mentality where he was coming from, where it's like, yeah, we're that was arranged for us. Like neither of us we haven't even physically been together. Like this is just quite literally a marriage of convenience for our country, like our kingdoms to come together. And she's emotional about that. Why? I don't know. And she's also acting like, you never told me this. I had to find out through other means. Like you don't have your own things. Cause she also says that too. She's like, well, I'm not telling him the whole truth about this other stuff.
In a very X-Files moment, she wakes up naked in the woods. He's also naked. I do like, he's like, oh, good. You're awake. I can get your consent now. I did like that. Like that. It's a nice little detail.
Also, could you imagine waking up wet, cold, and naked with dirt and leaves on you?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let's talk about the dirt and leaves. They fuck in these dirt and leaves.
Oh, it's going in all the places. She's all juicy and having it on all the places.
A makeshift blanket of leaves on the forest floor on a bed of grass. They are fucking in dirt and leaves, and they do not bathe. There is not a scene of them washing it off in the river. There is a scene of, look at me while I fill you up. I'm sorry. What? Okay. You're covered in I just couldn't. I couldn't. He says, brace yourself, princess. Okay, Cassian. It's just...
Yeah, but Cassian, she took a bath. Nesta was always bathed, even after she was in that bog.
Yeah, I just don't really love this. Honor the love from Nasir. Don't, put your walls up.
Oh, that fucking line.
That's a tactic.
Oh, didn't I put that? I go, then if you still love him, then honor his love, not by closing yourself off to the world, but
by opening your legs.
Letting the world know how amazing you truly are. I go, this is the biggest line that I've ever heard of in my entire fucking life. Please get over your dead husband by letting me fill you up. What?
And what is also kind of like funny here is like he's doing all these like declarations. He's like, you please me, soul. I just want to be where you are, which is echoing her thoughts about Nasir earlier. And then he's like, oh, BT dubs. No, I remember you. I remember you. Here's a story that you can't prove to be true. But I went home and I totally thought about it. And I do remember saving you when we were kids. And I was going to walk you to class the next day, but you were gone. I remembered you.
Which also... flash back to her telling that story. She said that she was like within a couple weeks, my parents took me out. And then we get to this part and then she's like, wait, I guess I was gone the next day. But a couple chapters before you were saying like, I wasn't there for much longer. I was only there for a couple weeks.
I love that. Like, they're having this like, crazy fucking or whatever. And she's like, I'm forbidden fruit. That's why you want me. I mean, she's not wrong. But he's like, essentially, after all of this, he's like, date me.
And I'm going to fuck up because I've never been in a relationship.
Before.
Have faith in me. Have faith in us. Who's going to get this man a podcast? Honestly.
He's like, it's just like, it's so funny. And then, but I like her answer because she wakes up a little bit later in the dirt and leaves. She wakes up a little bit later and gives him a blowjob. She's like, your thoughts are so loud. Come back to bed. Come back to the dirt. Here's a blowjob. It couldn't be me. It couldn't be me. All right. But we make it to the cave. Okay, we make it to the cave though, and we find our blade. It's like a red rose, like teeth. Very cool. Sol confesses her plan to raise Nasir, and Rivian is pissed off. He is so mad about that. He starts fucking screaming at her in this cave. And I was like,
meanwhile, he was about to tell her the rest of his little things that he was hiding, and then he's like, forgets all about that.
Yeah, he's like, you and your evil plans. Like, how can you do this? Like, he's like, tell me something I don't know. She's like, I love you. Did I do it? Did I tell you something you don't know? He's like, what? I guess the fuck, like wild tonal shift, but okay. This is also where his eyes start to glow amber, and she's like, you have magic. Like, here, I'm extinguishing my magic. Here's your magic.
Yeah, I do. Magic cock.
Magic cock.
I forgot. I was like doing something in the bathroom, and I just like stopped. I screamed.
Sir. Okay. All right.
If you say so.
If you say so. But Sol does prove that, like, he has magic. He's able to, like, call the dagger to him with, like, power. And he, like, calls her to him with his power without touching it, whatever. And then they are wildly back on the ship, about to dock in Sundom now.
When did they get, like, again, there are some things, and I guess it's the pacing, and I was just like, how did they get there? Did we just, like, gloss over that? Did I miss it? Then, you know, I feel like one thing that Harry Potter fanfics specifically, I'm just going to say our fanfic authors out there, we love you. We appreciate you all, oh so much. If you don't know what's happening, we got the Flu Network and we got a port key. That helps with so much transition.
Yeah, because like we're like about to dock, and we know 3 things.
Absolute certainty.
With absolute certainty. Magic is secret. Keep the dagger secret. And Rivian, you actually keep the dagger. Zari and Rivian have a huge screaming, punching fight. Luce and Sol, he's like, come to the boat. Like, come see the market. Whatever. Drugs the shit out of everybody on board. Thanks, Luce. And
darts
Sol
them, right? Like he
darts them. Yeah, and then Sol wakes up in Sundom alone. She's dreaming about her sisters. Her sisters are waiting for her. I found this interesting. Lola is like, happy, come with us. Luna is like, prophecy, which makes sense. She's the one that, you know. But this is the one where Sol is like, no, wait, this one's different. This one's a vision. This one's not a dream. This is a vision.
I'm thinking about the magic. Do we think that maybe Nasir isn't one of the magic and it's just the sisters because they're all coming from the lineage of Axel?
I don't think so, because that middle sister isn't doing shit.
Okay.
Or like that younger sister is like happy. And that other sister is like prophecy, shit is happening. And she's the one that wakes up later. So.
Okay.
But who can say? Who knows? There's a feast tonight. Let's all get ready for the feast.
There's
My
a
God.
ball.
Okay, there's a ball.
She's in her rose gold dress for the ball.
Yeah, BT Dubs, the king is already dead. Sorry that we drugged you, Rivian. Luce said that you were compromised. And, Rill, the new king, has protrusions on his tongue. Okay, that's just like never talked about again. When he's angry, it's just like not, all right. This is where Rivian has to go talk to Sayla because he has to bring her to the feast, and they all have to like sit at a long table and have an awkward like dinner with each other. Like, all right, fine.
And poor Sayla doesn't know all this shit has been going down. So this is another thing that I don't love about this book. Things start getting ironed out. There's a lot of, I don't want to say female betrayal because that's not what's happening, but a lot of female cattiness, except when it's between Sol and Nisa.
Yeah, because I do like this line that Nisa says. She's like, oh, her eyes glow when she hears bullshit.
I love that everybody laughed at that.
It's like, ooh. This is also where Sol and Rivian have their complete break. They break up, I guess. She's like, I regret you, when they talk in private or whatever. Mm-hmm. And this is where the King Rill comes in, and he's like, bow before your king. He's got all these dead eyes. And this is where at this dinner that the king is, acting kind of weird, and he's like, so you can't swim, Sol? And Sol's like, what the shit? What the shit? How do you know that? What is going on? I bit my tongue. She was the only person that I've told is Rivian. But then she looks over at Rivian and he goes, oh, he's just as confused as I am. So I'll give him props there. I might be fighting with him, but he's just as clueless with what's going on than I am. Yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. And this is where the king is like, all right, let me tell you a story. Let me set the scene. Let me tell you a story. I met Amosian who was so desperate to save his kingdom, right? I made a vow. We did a coup. He killed the king. And BT Dubs, here he is. Let's bring him out, everybody.
Did you know it was Nasir?
Yeah, who the fuck else could it be?
There were no hints that alluded to it. I just thought the most dramatic person it could be right now is Nasir. And then I was standing in my kitchen And they said Nasir. I was just like, I knew it. And then I texted my neighbor. I was like, I'm sorry.
And like Luce knew the whole time, right? Like they've all been in on it.
Yeah. Because even the
king's
brother
been
was
dead.
like, thanks, Luce, for your help.
Yeah, it's like, and so here's where we get Nasir, who's like gray and like cold, and there's no mating pool. He's like different. He starts like talking. He's like, yo, like I was paralyzed by the darkness, but I heard you calling for me, but you didn't abandon me. No, you couldn't have. You know, I woke up in the charnel house surrounded by bodies, but you and the hope of you kept me alive. You know, but the darkness, like, I didn't go to you when I got out of the charnel house because I was ruined, you know, and this power made me kill a guard. So I went to our house and our house was empty. So I got clothes, and then I went to the palace and I saw you. How'd you get into the palace, my guy? And I saw you passed out, and I saw you. How? Okay.
These are the house, but I love, like, at this point, he's never held anything against Soul at this point. He's like, I thought you were passed out and I would do anything to get you back, but I knew you were fighting me.
Oh, I disagree. I think he is pissed off here.
Oh,
he's
that's
like,
how you took it.
Because he's like, I was paralyzed. I was there. I was waiting for you. You didn't come to me.
Because he was amongst all the bodies.
Well, no, because he was in the house while she was out healing the rest of the people. This is like in the beginning. And he was like, and I knew you wouldn't abandon me, and I heard you calling for me, but then I was in the charnel house, like, and the hope of you kept me alive. Like, I think he's really bitter about all of this. And then he like finally goes to her, and she's like sick and everything. And he's like, oh, I can't. Like, oh my God, I can't. I need to like do something. And like, so he flees, right? Cause he's killing people. He's not in his right mind now. So like whatever, he's been possessed since he wakes up in the charnel house, right? So like, these are not like real feeling, like all this shit that he's saying is to like manipulate her.
Okay.
In my mind. Because he's like, I had the surge of energy from my hands and I killed all of these guards, right? And then I came to Sundom and I cut a deal with the king. You cut like what? And she's like, yeah. And then like the king has been like dead. I crushed his head. Okay. All right, cool. And then it's like, but I'm normal. Aren't you happy to see me? It's all for you.
And it had the two stipulations with Rel to always rule over Mosa and get her back.
Yeah, he wants to be the king of Mosa and the islands, and he wants Soul for her magic only. Right. Those were her conditions.
It was not Soul as the person; it was her capability.
Yeah, it's just wild. And then, so this is where Nasir is like, you're she's like, this Soul is like, well, if the king is dead, then why was I brought here? And this is when Nasir is like, because I asked for you, because you were part of the bargain, because I'm here. And it's like, oh, okay.
See, and this is where I'm like starting, now that we're talking it out. This is like, you remember when Rel was like, oh, all in due time, brother. You'll find out. But then when Nasir goes on his tangent, this, that, the other thing, and he's saying everything that happened, he's like, I fucked up. You should have, I don't know what is going on, but the way he killed our father so quickly. But he knew this during the ball scene. So I just don't know, like, you saw this happen 9 months ago. So why are you acting like scared now?
Yeah, it's just, it's strange. It's strange.
Yeah, because not only did he do it 9 months ago, they've only been there. Let's be generous with time. It takes 30 days to get to Mosa. So you have Rivian and crew getting to Mosa in 30 days. Gets Soul and Nisa, comes back 30 days later. So 2 months. So of these 9 months, when he went 2 months ago, so already then the king had been dead for 7 months.
Yeah, and the explanation of that is like, oh, they weren't close, so like he wouldn't know.
Like, I understand where Rivian didn't know about he never saw his dad. We get that laid out because he's at the sanctum. Typically, you can be at the sanctum for up to 7 years. Most of the families forget about them. That part I get. But for Rel is what I'm saying, to act like, oh, I fucked up. You knew from month 1 to month 7. Month 1 being when your dad, when Nasir killed his dad. You knew those 7 months how the father was killed. So when month 7, when Rivian goes to Mosa to come back for month 9, you already knew. You had 7 months of knowing. So why are you acting shocked? 2 months later, I had no idea it was just wild, man.
Yep. So what happens? There's just like fights, right? Rivian and Sol have a fight. You're a deceiver, right? I'm a queen. Fuck off. I'm tired of men telling me what to do, but we're beautiful together. Okay. Azari and Nisa kiss and she punches him. All right. 6 days later, 6 days later, there are what is this? This is the confessions, right? This is Ren and Rivian having their confessions. Luce works for the king. He doesn't work for Rivian. Everything's been on the king's orders. This is where Ril is like, it's kind of like a blackmail situation. He glamored all the guards, like. This is it. It's the princess or the kingdom. I'm kind of stuck here. But they're going to leave tonight. Like the plan is they're going to leave tonight. And this is where Rivian is like, yo, but you know what? My brother, I have magic and I am in love with Sol. And this is where his brother's like, well, all right, let's fix it then. Okay. All right. Sure. Will do. Weeks later, it's just an indeterminate amount of time. This is when Nasir slaps Nisa and everything goes south fast.
Wait, who slaps Nisa?
Nasir.
Oh, yes. Because, Sol picked up right away. She's like, that's not Nasir. And Nisa says, you're in your own head. I know my brother. You're looking for something. And then like you said, then he slaps her and she's like, I don't know who the fuck that is, but it's not my brother. And this is what makes me believe, this is like, again, we haven't read the second book. So I don't know. Like, was Nasir always possessed or did he become possessed after he like came back to life? I don't know. But then Sol thinks she kills Nasir in this part. This again, I feel like is really, really fast. And what else is there to say? There's a fight. She goes, go after him. She kills him. On to the next. No?
Well, yeah, he's like, you're so naive, Sol. Like, you're second born. You're disgusting. Like, I just wanted to be king. You were the easy pickings. Like, I was created in the charnel house. I took over. I have magic. Tonight we sail for Mosa. And yeah, it's the battle. Rivian is there. He uses magic too. And Sol just passes out. And then 3 days later,
there was another pass out thing.
Yeah. And she's out for almost 4 days later. And she wakes up. She's like, hey, Blue Eyes, you're magic to me. You're my mate. Okay. But while that's happening, Nasir's body is back in the charnel house under guard.
Right.
Like, we just know just chop his fucking head off. Like, what are we doing?
Why? This is why, Throne of Glass spoilers, Lysandra's so fucking real. When Lysandra, like, decapitates this person, I won't put his name in, good. And, Aelin following through to make sure he was, I'm all here for it. But this is also the point where, King Ril and Sol start having their agreement of like what they want, how they can essentially be allies.
Yes. And this is also where Kia and Sol have their little talk. Like, I knew that Rivian was in love with you right when he saw you. You are his, you're equals. And this is where Sol, again, I hate this. Sol's like, the tragedy of my life made me who I am today. I hate that shit. She's also like, do you forgive me? And she's like, no, but maybe one day it won't suck so bad. And I do appreciate that.
That part I appreciate. I like where she wasn't just like sure, we can be besties, because Kia's like coming to her as, you know, as the queen that she as a being soul. Like, I fucked up. I kind of set this whole thing awry with Sayla telling the guys I was insecure and jealous. I like that Soul wasn't forgiving her. She's like, time will tell, but like, maybe we'll be amicable. And then Kia's like, that's all I ask for. That's all I ask for.
We are finally almost done with this book. We are at the meeting of King Rill and Soul, where they hammer out this treaty. Mosa gets sovereignty and the islands. Soul has to heal everybody, and she has to come to Sundom once a year, and she's got to get married.
They essentially have the same agreement for each other's kingdoms. That's how I took it.
Sort of. Soul wants just money, 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 money. Just pay me, pay me, pay me. She wants to decimate the sanctum and change it. And then she's like, yeah, you have to get married too. You have to come once a year. And then you have to buy stuff there, make a show of buying stuff there, and like bring it back. And BT dubs, I'm leaving for Mosa right now. Right now. I want to go now. But before that, she has to have sexy time with her mate. And this is where we have possessed Rivian. This feels very Iron Flame to me.
Because of the possession, or because of the sexy time, or how quick everything was?
Because of the like betrayal, possession, because we're supposed to be like, right? Like, this is supposed to be the big thing, right? Like, our mate is being taken away from us. Like, he's different. There's something wrong, right? Like, we can't be with him now. It's like a whole thing. Because that's what happens. They start to have, Rivian and Soul start to have like hot and heavy, sexy time. And he says like, you should smile more.
That part was so, I will say, I was almost like, everybody's relationships are different. I will say that. So at first I was like, is he saying this in a haha mock you? And you're just like, too soon. Because there are people out there who would take somebody's trauma and try to like make a joke out of it. And I wouldn't put it past Rivian to do something like that either. To be like, oh, come on. Like, this is how I would joke around with the guys. So I did kind of think like, too soon, bro. And then when he said it again, I was like, oh, this is Nasir.
Yeah. And he's like, you're insufferable. Were you always like this? Like, you're garbage. Like, the master was right about you. Okay. Who's your master guy? And he also breaks her leg here, which is, not cool. And this is Rivian, like, fights, right? He fights through his possession. He's like crying. He's like, I love you. I'm sorry. Nasir is alive. No shit, my guy.
I have a question about this part, because right before this, she's like, she's getting off quite a lot. And he's like, oh, you need to be quiet. She's like, my security, my guards won't
interrupt us.
Interrupt us. So like, they're close. At this point, when her leg is broken, why hasn't anybody rushed in? Why hasn't she? Because it's not like they have magical wards like Xaden does for their room.
Like,
use something. Somebody like call for help. Your leg is broken. You can't get up. We know for a fact they don't silent proof the room like Xaden does. I just have a lot of questions.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. He chokes her out. Soul dreams of her sisters. Lola says, find me, find me. She magically has green eyes now. And she's like, you must wake up now. And this is Luce and Rory. You're reviving Soul. Like, we have to go. We have to get out of here. BT Dubs, your best friend, has been killed. And Zarya is unconscious. Rivian stabbed the fuck out of Nisa. And so Soul is like, oh, remember this dagger that I lied to you and said that we didn't find and we just fucked in that cave? I have it now. Let's go fuck shit up. But she doesn't. She doesn't fuck shit up, of course. She goes and Nisa will not rise because we don't know why. Because the Holy Mother says we don't know why.
Because that's the dagger was supposed to, she was just like, you know what? I'm bringing my friend back to life. Fuck that.
Yep. So Nisa will be buried in the royal crypt, you know, and this is where Sol is like, I will get revenge. Like, you know, I will save our people. Okay, fine. And, you know, this is Rivian goes to Mosa, and she's like, all right, I gotta go too. I'm gonna burn the world down to rescue Rivian. Give me the radiant. We're going now. And this is where Sayla like bursts in. She's like, I'm here to save Rivian. And this is where she's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up and listen to me.
I love that her brother, like I say, her brother-in-law, I'll say that loosely, Rel was like, so this is his mate. You best bow down to the queen, get on your knees. But Sayla's warrior uniform sounded so cool.
Sounds Roman. It all sounds very, very Roman, especially with little like mohawk, very Roman. She's like, oh, okay, I'll listen to you. Rah, let's all work together. They're not going to go 30 days on the ocean. They're going to go through the sanctum this time. And she's like, are you in? And everyone's like, we're in. And they chant the chant. And she's like, I guess I'll have to learn how to kill. Okay. And we're at the epilogue now. This is the backslide. We're almost done. We have a person, a girl, wakes up. There's a weird smell. She's very confused. The trees are changing colors. This is Lola. She has green flames in her fingers. She sees an unconscious, beautiful man who wakes up and greets her. He's in armor. He has fangs, dimples. He is 6 feet plus. He has gold eyes. He says his name is Kingsley.
He's a king named Kingsley.
He's a king named Kingsley. And that's how the book ends. Ba-ba-ba-bum. And then there's some acknowledgments and things. And the author says that she really focused it on the friendship here because this book is dedicated to her best friend. She's from the Dominican Republic, and she has background in counseling and human services. And that's how she used her background to write this book. Okay. I mentioned rose gold earlier. Jess, do you want to talk about it?
Is it the fact that we had a previous conversation with one of like the third book of Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy with the rose gold reference?
Exactly right. And you want to talk about that and all of that entailing all of it. Fuck.
I don't even know where to begin. Okay, so the rose gold. This book came out last year, and typically, I think in past episodes, if you've listened to every episode, you probably know where we're going with this. If you haven't, welcome. Rose gold reference seems to be something that dates a reading. I feel like fantasy, you typically don't know where something is dated or when it was written by because it's kind of its own, world building that's happening. But anytime we kind of talked it out in that third Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy episode, is rose gold feels dated from like a millennial point of view because it was just such a specific point in time, just like they have, I think something's referenced to like Gen Z purple now, which I'll find an article. I'm sure we'll put it in show notes, but it's very, you kind of assign it to a certain generation. I don't know if I'm explaining this well.
You are. But
all the references with rose gold, we obviously know the color it is, but I think that just kind of, I don't know. It's I don't want to say frustration. It's just something that we picked up on that feels like it can date the book.
Well, and as we're talking about frustrations, I do want to say it does kind of objectively sound like we're shitting on this book. I don't think necessarily that we are. However, if you want to hear us shit on a book, you can go to the third Kingdom of the Wicked book where this rose gold discussion is happening, and you can hear us kind of shit on that book. It is just something that I want to point out because though we might be sounding negative here, if you want to hear us be negative, you can. And I do also want to point out that, like, yes, this author is from the Dominican Republic. She is a woman of color. We're not shitting on this book or her because of that. Again, go see some other. I mean, I'm thinking about Carissa Broadbent's book. If you want to hear us talk some shit.
And I thought you were like kind in that episode.
Like,
it's been a while.
Well, yeah. So I just want to be very clear. Yes, there's things that we don't like in this book, or me specifically, I'll speak for myself, that I don't like in this book. There is a lot that I do like in this book. I would love to reread this book if it gets hit with a different editor, or maybe is restructured a little bit. I think this book would really benefit from that. And to hammer out the issues between the audio and the KU.
I was shocked with that. Like I told you, I go, that completely makes me, and I'll probably, just out of curiosity's sake, I might go into just finishing the second reread after this to see if anything else was edited. It's those little publishing questions that we have with like editing. I mean, and that's not even saying like the grammatical things that I found. And these are the things where I'm also like, I hit press releases, that's part of the things that I do. So I do have a different eye. And that's just coming from somebody who is not a professional editor. Those are just me with my everyday job. So those little nuances are like, if this isn't my job and I'm pointing it and I'm picking it up, what does that, I don't know. Those are the little questions that I have. I also want to note that like this book has a lot of things that we would love on paper. So I think that's why we were so excited. And we're not, I think it's fair to say that we have criticisms, but who doesn't have criticisms when you read? Because we're all looking for something different. And again, we've said this before, we're all chasing that high to find something that we love. Are you running to pick up the second book to see if any of this gets fleshed out? Or are you going to give yourself like, you know what, I'm going to have a break and I'm going to come back to it?
No to both points. There are things that I am excited for that just totally eclipse this. So there is like some part of me that's like, gee, I really do want to know how this story ends. And I think that if I'm in a book slump, then I would pick this up on KU just to like finish it,
Mm-hmm.
But until I get to that point where I am in a book slump and nothing is working for me, I won't seek this out. But I will eventually in time. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like I need to finish a couple of TV shows. I don't have the will or the energy to do it now, but I know that I will finish these TV shows before I die. So I'll get there.
Me with the final season of Supernatural, just because I'm in denial of every, like, it's actually over.
Yeah. What about you? Would you pick this up right away?
We have so many other things to be reading for the podcast and rereads that are coming up in the next year and really the next couple weeks that I think I'm aligned with the same thing. I'm definitely going to finish my second reread of it because I want to see what else might not be consistent. That's just really curious to me. And then it begs for me to have other questions like, what copy did the narrator get? Or did the narrator get like this early copy? That's why they have more dialogue. And then it went through another round of editing before getting pushed onto KU. Or was it the other way around where it was on KU first? Because I know, producing books into audio versions is costly. So maybe there was a more updated version. I don't know if it's like a chicken or the egg situation. I'm curious. That's just my natural default setting sometimes. And I'd read the second book. I don't know if I'm going right into it. I mean, we have other books that we're reading for author interviews that those are just kind of more timely. But yeah, eventually but I'm not to say just because I want to round out the story. And knowing that it's 2 books, it's a confirmed duology according to KU. If it was like a whole series, I would be like, I don't know if I'm that invested.
Yeah, but a duology is doable, especially if you're in a book slump and you're not wanting smut. So yeah, I could totally see it.
I don't know about not wanting smut because apparently this one decided it did. But you could take it out. Again, you could take it out and just focus on the plot. That's maybe what I'd do. So that being said, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're on ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thank you for joining us as we start the new year in 2024 and everything that's to come. We can't wait to hear from y'all. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.